What's going on, everyone? Taylor Kyles here for CLNS Media, coming at you with another episode of Pat's Daily, brought to you by our good friends at Prize Picks and Game Time. One of the most important drafts in Patriots history is in the books, and if they ask this guy right here, I think they did a pretty bang-up job. Really set a foundation for some of the young talent in terms of not just talent, but also people with some bright personalities and also some guys who clearly have some intriguing leadership ability. So to walk me through from a different perspective and a much more professional perspective, how the Patriots did in this draft and to shed some light on some of the guys that he actually has experience working with, I've got Eric Galko, Director of Football Operations and Player Personnel at the Shrine Bowl, which had a record 57 players drafted, a 24% increase. Eric, thank you for the time, man. How you doing and how are you feeling? Well done.
I'm doing great, and I appreciate it. It's a great privilege I have to get a chance to work with 130 plus players every year at the Shrine Bowl, and having these guys get drafted and the Shrine Bowl playing even a small part in their process is pretty rewarding, man. So I appreciate that. And I agree, man. A heck of a draft for the Patriots for a semi-new front office.
Thank you. So first, I want to shed some light even more on what you guys were able to do. So tell me a little bit about the growth that has happened at the Shrine Bowl, because it seems like it's getting more and more attention every year, as it deserves. Obviously, you're a big part of that.
You know, it's funny, man. It's not dissimilar to, I think, what a lot of college or NFL programs want to do as well, is you try to do things the right way and quote unquote rebuild. And the Shrine Bowl has a rich history. It's 99 years the event. Next year is our 100th anniversary. And for 3/4 of that era, the Shrine Bowl was an incredible college all-star event. I mean, I think it was on Fox and CBS at the same time. Like, imagine that in today's world, right? Like, it was that big of a deal. Every player went there, from Tom Brady to all these guys, John Elway, et cetera. And it kind of lost its luster a little bit for some, other reasons. And I was trying to kind of rebuild that to bring it back to, we got a great team at the Shriners Hospital, and we're trying to kind of do that. But I've taken a lot of pride in my 3 years here so far of taking care of players from a health standpoint, from a food standpoint, from a sleep standpoint, from a resources. We're at the Dallas Cowboys facility. You literally cannot beat that in the entire NFL. And I'm very thankful that that kind of process we've done has led to players choosing the Shrine Bowl for their all-star games, or more likely to want to come to the event versus opting into all-star games altogether. We've taken care of players in a great way. So it was challenging the first 2 years, but having guys really trust what we're doing is what I think is most rewarding for me and my team, to say, hey, doing this the right way, now we have a record number of draft picks, and now we can do much, much more for the future, man. So it's been accomplishing for sure.
And I know both the program and the players are in great hands. I've seen firsthand your dedication, who you are as a person. It's really cool to see you having all this success. So
Thanks,
now getting into the Patriots, you mentioned,
Yeah.
I think they did pretty well in this draft. They really needed it. Obviously, one of the league's worst offenses last year, despite doing pretty well on defense. It felt like, probably not a popular opinion. I thought they were still a really competitive team and a good team. It's just they had some things that were wrong that kind of took away from the luster of what they were doing well. So how did you think they did in this draft? 7 offensive players, just 1 defensive player, got themselves a quarterback and a pair of weapons and offensive linemen, which Elliot Wolf told us after they got Maye was the goal.
It's funny because they have a new front office and a new head coach, but a lot of the same kind of people there as well, too. And I think the Patriots, I think people in that building got maybe a poor perception on the outside. That's a lot of smart people in that coaching staff and that front office, and they showed in this year's draft class as well too. A lot of the same people have been there for a while too, but not uncommon when you have a new defensive coach. That team usually goes offense early on, usually vice versa as well too. You got to rely on Gerard Mayo to kind of make that defense what it is, but the offense added a ton of players this year, and I obviously started with Drake Maye. It's funny, and someone else in the building too early on in the process was like, I'd ask them, hey, you think, if you're the Patriots, do you trade these picks away for a guy like either Jaden Daniels or Drake Maye? And it's, if all these teams want to go up, that means that guy's pretty good, right? If the Giants and Vikings are offering 2, 3 first-round picks, if you were the Patriots and you were picking 6, you'd be offering 3 first-round picks for Drake Maye too. So I think Drake Maye's pretty special. I think in most draft classes, he'd be a consensus number 1, right? If not for Caleb Williams being the special player that he is, and Jaden Daniels having maybe the second or most historic season ever outside of him and Joe Burrow, ironically with LSU. Like, Drake Maye is a shoe-in, and I think Drake Maye has all the same traits that Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert or Josh Allen had. So to start your draft with him is a pretty easy start to getting an A draft grade, no matter what you think of the rest of their draft class.
I remember I was thinking the same thing, specifically on draft day, where you're hearing the Dayball and Kevin O'Connell, 2 guys who do have Patriots ties, are trying to move heaven and earth. And I'm like, don't fall for the trap. Why on earth would you do that? And then you even had Cameron Wolf report that Mayo was kind of in a similar boat where it's like, yeah, no, we really like this guy. I think we're going to stay put. We're not giving up those assets.
I got a chance to see Drake Maye for the first time live about 11 months ago at the Manning Passing Academy. And he's a guy that you just watch 2 or 3 throws and his demeanor, and you're just like, man, that guy's going to have a chance to be a great NFL quarterback, right? Like that kind of talent sets the ceiling for a guy, and you could see the ceiling is undeniable. And then you get a chance to meet Drake and talk to him. And, I always tell people that athleticism and talent sets the ceiling, and the character and the mental makeup sets the floor, and both are super, super high for Drake Maye. So again, quarterback success is as much about situation as it is talent. And the Patriots set him up for success, but no doubt he has a talent and the high floor to be that.
Yeah, I feel like those intangibles can kind of get lost during the draft process, especially with fans, because you want the shiny new addition. You want the guy who's got the talent. Luckily, like you said, Drake has that in spades. But one thing I remember doing my research on him, hearing about his family, how competitive they were, how successful they've been. It's like, all right, being the youngest brother, I'm the youngest brother, so it may go underappreciated, but you get a little, you get roughed up a little bit. And you have to understand what it's like to have that toughness when you're in a competitive family. So that was intriguing. And then we got to meet him in the interviews. And then when he actually came to Gillette, it's very obvious. This is a guy who's got his priorities straight, cares about his family, cares about the game. And just, it seems like he's not really going to be distracted by so many of the things that can kind of get in your way when you're a young guy in this position.
And I think you mentioned the sibling thing. One thing another, former NFL executive brought up to me about the family background is that he's used to being in the shadows of someone else as an older brother who's been successful too. And he's willing to kind of both be a good sibling at that time and then taking his own time to shine. And here at the Patriots, he'll sit behind Jacoby. And I think a lot of NFL teams, when they draft quarterback is such a unique position. You want to ask yourself, what can this guy be? Can he handle that role? But what can he be right now, right? I go back to Brock Purdy, who played in the Shrine Bowl, got to know Brock a little bit back then. And dealing with Brock, I was like, if this guy's a third stringer, he's going to give that first team offense a heck of a go of it in practice. If he's your backup, he's going to make your starter better and fill in if he needs to. If he's your starter, it's not going to be too big for him. And I think a lot of guys in the draft process, quarterback-wise, they may be drafted as a backup, but they can't mentally handle that. And I think Drake is a guy that if he's the backup this whole year, he's going to make sure Jacoby is crushing it every week in practice and the game day, right? If he's a starter, he'll handle it too. I think Drake, having the brothers that play professional sports, I think is a really important wrinkle to how we'll handle working with Jacoby Brissett as well.
The mental toughness is huge. And one thing with the Patriots free agency, obviously weren't able to make any splashes, but I thought they did do a good job filling holes where, if you do have the first team where it's all veterans, you got Jacoby, you got KJ, Kendrick Bourne, Pop Douglas, another guy you're familiar with. Those guys can still get on the field and be able to have success while the young guys are waiting. But even still, those young guys who are in waiting are very talented. I'm also curious what you think about the weapons they got for Drake Maye. Thought they were outstanding fits, ball winners, guys with big catch radiuses who counter each other pretty well. You got Jalen Polk, who's, still working on the route running part of his game, but the size is undeniable. The hands are fantastic. And I feel like what maybe had him higher on teams' boards than maybe us outside was the fact that he is a really outstanding character addition, it feels like, and just a straight up good football player as well. Then you got Javon Baker, who's more of a separator. He's got a little more dynamicism to his game, a little bit of dog too. You got a lot of nice guys in the Patriots receiving core. Seems like he's got a little bit of an edge. How did you feel about those selections and how they match up with Drake Maye?
It really feels that the Patriots have a lot of different types of receivers and personalities there. And I think they want, I'm just guessing here a little bit, they want a lot of competition in this training camp, right? Polk is a guy that is smooth, efficient, great ball skills. He's going to find a role, but he has maybe lacks something that other guys may have right now. Kendrick Bourne, maybe a better route separator, right? Pop Douglas better in the slot and working downfield. Tyquan Thornton, that top end speed is always a threat. Can Keyshawn Boutte do some things? Jalen Rager's there, right? As a speed guy, kind of finding his role too. So I think Juju Smith-Schuster, right? It's a guy that had a lot of success in his NFL career too. I think all these guys, you put like 3 of these guys together, you get like a Megatron type receiver. And I think for the Patriots, it's going to be a great combination. They've got 7, 8 guys. KJ Osborne, I mentioned either 7, 8, 9 guys who will compete in camp. And I wouldn't be surprised if all the Patriots, have offense 1, offense 2, offense 3. You got 3 quarterbacks in Brissett, Zappe, and Drake Maye who all have some expectation of playing this year. Whether they will or not, we'll find out, right? But all those guys, Joe Milton too, all these guys that want a chance to play, 9 receivers that want a chance to play too. So it feels like the Patriots have set that receiver room, like the quarterback room, up for hopefully healthy competition. I'm biased. my guys Tyquan and Pop Douglas are there. I'm rooting for those two guys for sure. But a lot of weapons in that offense. I think the Patriots have, really 8 or 9 guys that they only need 5 to emerge. And I think of that 9 group, 5 of those guys will emerge. And I bet Polk is probably one of the big guys that has to happen for them.
Not only is it great for the competition, it's good for Pats fans in the preseason. You get to those third and fourth quarters, you're probably still going to get some entertaining guys on the field. So before we get into your Shrine Bowl guys from this season, I'm curious what you think about Pop Douglas and Tyquan Thornton. Demario Douglas obviously going into his second season. It feels like he showed more potential than he really showed up in the stat sheet, because I saw there were plenty of times he's getting open, killing it on the field, but obviously a lot of difficult situations last season. And Tyquan Thornton, I call him Buff Tyquan now. I don't know if you saw, but he's putting on some body armor trying to stay on the field. Obviously, there's not staying on the field, maybe some coaching. It feels like he's kind of behind the 8 ball because he just hasn't had many opportunities. But now that he has put on some more weight, now this is a different system where looking at the film with what Drake Maye was doing off play action, and then Aaron Rodgers, as he mentioned, where it's a lot of that Dino taking the top off between the hashes, I'm like, that seems like a Tyquan kind of route and maybe help him revitalize his career. What are you expecting from those guys this season?
Yeah, on Tyquan first, I think he's been unfortunately hit by injuries. This is an immensely talented guy. I think Patriots fans, I remember seeing, 2 years ago now, they reached on him. Like, he was going to go in round 2. A lot of teams know that Tyquan, who's, I think he probably is the fastest guy ever. I think there's actually some data that says he ran a 4.19 at the combine, not a 4.24. Like, he maybe got screwed there a little bit, but I'm biased for my guy Tyquan, but he is immensely talented. If he's healthy, he's the fastest guy in the receiver room for the Patriots. He's a guy that can play outside and win as a Z or X receiver too. He's worked on his press separation skills as well too this offseason. So I'm hopeful that Tyquan is 100% healthy, because I think he does. I think that people are excited about Javon Baker is great. Javon's super talented. Tyquan, I think at his ceiling, can do everything Javon can do and more. But hopefully Tyquan's healthy all season long too. And I'm rooting for a big breakout for Tyquan, because he has the talent within him too. And then Pop Douglas. Pop is one of my favorite guys I can still talk with from last year's draft class. He came in the Shrine Bowl this year. I think he is I think he'll be a leader for this team moving forward. He's got that type of personality that guys just gravitate to him. He's real. He's honest. He works his butt off. I think he's a guy that not only will be a big part of this team in the stat sheet moving forward, but also in the locker room. But yeah, he's going to has a chance to be one of the best slot receivers in football. The fact they got him in the 6th round last year was incredible, was ridiculous. And the Patriots stole a guy that might catch 80 balls from this year in the 6th round a year ago. But I think he'll play a huge role in this offense. Similar to what Alex and Pellet's had in the past, they're going to want to use that slot receiver a lot in the middle of the field and short area stuff and quick slants and reverses, all those things. He'll be used quite a bit.
Yeah, Alex Pelt doesn't get a lot of credit for just how creative he is as a coordinator. He's not like from the McVay tree, but you look at it, and especially I think it's that Brown Seahawks game was where you're like, whoa, they're really throwing the kitchen sink, getting real creative here. So really rooting for those guys as well. Excited to see what they do. We are going to get into your Shrine Bowl guys from this year, but first, quick word from our friends at Prize Picks. Be right back. Get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks, as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with basketball and hockey entries today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I personally love Prize Picks because they're super easy to use, easy to navigate, and they offer injury insurance, so your entries stay live even if one of your players gets injured. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. Download the app today and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, so speaking of your guys, Caedan Wallace, Marcellas Dial, Deshaun Fenwick. Deshaun Fenwick actually a guy I took in a lot of my early mock drafts, so I feel really good about that when they picked him up. These are guys, especially in this draft class, like I mentioned, it seemed like character was a really big area of emphasis, and then getting to get on the Zoom calls with these guys. Every single one I came off, and I'm like, it's really nice. I like him. I like his vibe. So tell the people before we get into the players what kind of people New England is getting in Wallace, in Dial, and in Fenwick.
Yeah, Wallace is I think a little soft-spoken, but he is so motivated, man. I mean, he's played a lot of football at Penn State. He's played with a lot of great offensive linemen at Penn State, and I think he is as locked in as they can. I think he still has a chip on his shoulder, right? I think this idea that he's going to challenge at left tackle is going to be huge for him because he didn't play left tackle because he was playing with one of the most impressive left tackles of the last decade in college football in Olu Fashanu, right? So I think he's shown that he can play left tackle, he can play right tackle. I think he's really motivated to show teams what he can do, and he really rose this process in part because of the character in the interviews at the Shrine Bowl, at the Combine. Patriots likely one of those teams that were like, you know what, this is a guy that wants to be special and has all the tools to be that. Marcellas Dial is a guy who had a lot of success early on in his college career, didn't really get targeted as much towards the end of his college career because he was so impressed in that South Carolina defense, but he'll play a lot of different roles for you. He'll step in as a special teams guy day one. He'll play corner. He'll play safety. He'll play whatever. He's long. He's athletic. He's got those tools to be great. And I think he's a guy that could emerge as a special teams ace year one and develop into a safety corner hybrid for them for the future. And then Deshaun Fenwick. I mean, what a great kid. What a great person. He's enjoyable to hang out with. He's a life of the party kind of guy, but he is as motivated as anybody at the Shrine Bowl roster this year. I mean, he knew that, hey, because of Oregon State and working in a rotation, he had to make every single opportunity matter. And I think he's a guy that's going to show him to camp, and he'll be one of the first guys there, last guy out, one of those guys for sure. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if by the middle part of camp you're saying, man, they keep involving Fenwick because he's working his butt up as a pass catcher. Man, he's giving a lot of effort as a pass blocker. Like, he's going to do those third down stuff that I think the Patriots really need in that running back room, and he'll be one of the better guys in those areas too. So don't be surprised at all if Fenwick sticks as their third, fourth running back this year, because he'll do all the things on special teams, on the new kickoff rule. Like, he'll be on both sides, kick and kick return, blocking, right? Like, he'll do all those little things that you want, and he wants to be a great NFL player, and he knows what he has to do to be there, and he'll do little things really, really well, Deshaun. So you got three really high character guys from the Shrine Bowl, especially.
I've got Deshaun on my list of my undrafted guys I think are going to make the roster. So I agree. You look at the talent, especially the pass blocking. That's what really stands out for me, is that willingness. That's when you know a guy's willing to put in the work to be better, when you're willing to do the one thing that, isn't very enviable but matters so much. So going to Caedan Wallace. Patriots said that they project him to be a left tackle. Now, personally, I was confused. When I was looking at his profile, I liked the player, but did think, okay, this is a right tackle. They really need left. So I was surprised. I was like, okay, is he going to be a guard? Is it one moving? Like, what's going on? But again, the plan for him is to go on that blind side. So watching him against Ohio State, I saw you mention that was a game that really stood out for you. And he's an experienced player, and you could see it, the patience, the balance. Like, he's just a guy who feels like he understands his skill set and works inside that. So from your perspective, what is he bringing to the Patriots on the field, and why do you think he can make the transition over to left tackle?
I think he's the type of person and learner that knows the why of what he's doing, right? There are some athletes and some players who are like, hey, you know what? Tell me what I got to do, I'll go do it. I think Kaden is a very thoughtful person. He knows why the movement steps are happening and knows the type of offensive linemen or receivers or defensive backs that can usually transition from positions really easily. And I think that's what Caden likely projects to do. And again, he was playing right tackle not because he couldn't play left, but because they had a great left tackle there as well too. And I think, to give the Shrine Bowl a shout out, he showed he could play left tackle at the Shrine Bowl. He did really well there. And I think every NFL team left the Shrine Bowl, why I thought he was going to be a top 4-round guy after the Shrine Bowl, because he not only did great in practice, but at worst, he was going to be the best swing tackle in this draft class, right? He was going to show teams he can play both left and right tackle as a backup. So was I surprised he was drafted to be a left tackle? A little, just because he played 1,000 snaps at right tackle in his college career. But him figuring out left tackle, it's not going to be a huge learning curve. It'll be some there. And I think the first couple of days of practice, maybe a little odd too. But don't be surprised within a week or two, he's protecting that inside foot against stunt moves, right? Or he's able to kind of get his 3 steps out and get his hands on a guy and be in balance. But a lot of the technical stuff will be really easy for him to pick up, right? He'll be in sync with his upper and lower half pretty quickly. So it'll be some minor stuff they'll figure out too. But I think the Patriots are dead on that, hey, he hasn't played left tackle yet because of the college situation, not because he can. And he has the football IQ and the athletic coordination to kind of figure that out pretty quickly.
And all of these guys, you're entering the NFL, you have something to work on. For Wallace, what are some of those things you think he could start shoring up in his game, like areas of focus once he gets into training camp?
Yeah, I think him just finishing. I think he's a guy that's so athletic and so smooth. Was at right tackle, be the same way at left tackle, and maybe even at left tackle will take him a little bit longer because he'll have to think about a few more things, and then versus right tackle. But I think once he gets down the technique and the timing and the movement times and all those things, just for him, hey, just go be nasty, right? Just go finish, put guys in the ground too. He's got all those physical traits, all his athletic traits too. That I think if he was a guy that had a couple more wild plays at Penn State on film all the time, he might be a first round pick. Like that's how talented this guy is as well too. So I think for him, it's about once the technique's down, hey, show off that strength a little bit, right? Don't be worried about, the next blitzer or whatever else. Either finish the guy you're getting at and be a good left tackle. I think he'll do that in the NFL pretty quickly.
I'm curious. The Patriots seem like they've been trending older when it comes to their offensive linemen in recent history. And from my perspective, I'm thinking, well, you're not really getting a lot of time in practice, especially as an offensive lineman, to do what you've got to do. I spoke to Cole Strange last year about bull rushes because everyone's like, oh, he can't handle a bull rush. And he's like, you got to understand, it's really difficult to handle things like that because you can't simulate a bull rush. Like you actually need to get the reps to do that. Yeah. Obviously, he's a different situation because he missed a lot of the summer due to injury. But even still, like during the season, you get a ton of opportunities. Do you think maybe that's a reason that the Patriots or maybe other teams are starting to value guys with a lot of experience more because maybe they're a little easier to teach because they've seen so much, or you think it's maybe something else?
It's a great question, man, because I think philosophically I'm with you. And I'll give a quick story if that's all right. When I was at the XFL after our first year was, starting out, I was looking at year 2 at the XFL, and I called up a good friend of mine, Duke Manyweather. And I was like, Duke, the XFL, we didn't have as much offensive line talent. How do we make our offensive lines better? Not get great talent, make our offensive lines better. And I was like, I'm like, I think this is wrong, but do you think it's like find the basketball athletes, the guys that transfer over? And he's like, honestly, Eric, you want to find a guy that's seen a lot of football, because I can make a guy that's seen a lot of football 20% better versus trying to make a guy that has not seen a lot of football 100% better. Yeah. And I think he kind of taught that to me. I think NFL teams are seeing it now that, hey, you know what? We don't need to have the freakiest of freak athletes be at every offensive line, right? The Lions took that kid from British Columbia to be an upside guy. You can have one, maybe two of those guys on your roster, but you want to have guys that know generally what they're doing and get the absolute most out of them and just keep your offense afloat, right? Especially now with how much horizontal stretching we're doing and play action and RPOs. Like, you don't need an offensive lineman to protect 4 seconds 20 times a game, right? That's probably 5 or 10 times a game tops too. So having guys who are efficient, technically sound, cannot make mistakes is probably what's really valuable for a lot of NFL teams around the NFL. And Patriots seem to value a lot of those guys from last year's draft and this year's draft.
That's really interesting. And it seems like if everything goes to plan and these young guys end up playing soon, there's a chance that Wallace and another offensive line pick for the Patriots, Leighton Robinson, could end up playing on the same side, or in any future, it seems like ideally they're going to play together. What do you think of Robinson's profile, and how do those two guys kind of complement each other and maybe give you a hint at what the Patriots are trying to do? I know they're kind of shifting towards more of a wide zone scheme. So how do they fit into that mix?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak on Kaden for sure, and he'll fit. I think once he gets left tackle first off, the scheme will be pretty easy for him. He can move super well in space and climb to the second level pretty easily too. I think Leighton's tremendously gifted. And they've got a lot of competition there at guard, right? They've got Cole and they got Sidney Sau, who started last year, Antonio Mafi, a Shrine Bowl guy as well too. And I think all 4 of those guys, especially Sidney, Leighton, and Mafi, are all big guys who can move, have some positional versatility too. I think it'd be a great competition in camp, because I think all 3 of those guys, again, have really impressive talent. Obviously, Sidney coming from a smaller school, Mafi only played offensive guard for 2-3 years at UCLA, and now Leighton there come from a big school, but they're all very similar in their body type. So I think all 3 of those guys are good fits. And I think it's going to be a really intriguing 3-man race for probably just one spot in the right guard position.
So they won a competition. They got it. I can't wait to watch it. We are going to hit on defense and talk about Deshaun Fenwick and what he could do for this offense. Another quick word from our friends at Game Time. Be right back. With the NBA playoffs in full swing and the Celtics looking like the best team in the East, I'm trying to go to a game so I can witness their greatness in person. And to get those tickets, I'm going to be using Game Time, an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the tip-off, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Buying tickets on Game Time is extremely easy. All you have to do is click on the team that you want to watch, browse through the different options for dates and seating. Then you can filter through things like price and where you want your seat to be, as well as how many people you're going to be bringing with you. And they have a very cool feature where you actually get a panoramic view of the seat you're going to purchase. From there, if you have Apple Pay, it can be as easy as one click and you're all set. I also love the last minute ticket deals, because if you're trying to save a couple dollars like me, they can make the experience of buying a ticket a little less stressful, so you don't have to spend quite as much as you would with other services. They also have other events that you can go to, like comedy shows, music events, and certain things like that. I'm personally a big fan of comedian Jeff Arcuri and definitely want to see him while he's in Boston. And I love the lowest price guarantee and event cancellation protection. So if last minute you decide you may not want to go to the event or something comes up, you're all good. You can save up to 60% by buying your tickets last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, or anything else that Game Time offers. Your purchase is also covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket industry. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now, I don't know if you're watching Bill Belichick on the Pat McAfee show, but on his board, cornerback was the Patriots' third biggest position of need. Now, luckily, they did address it. It took till day 3, but they did, with a really intriguing player, as we kind of touched on in Marcellas Dial. Now, the Patriots, I think they need some competition at outside corner. Maybe John Jones kicking into the slot this year, but also safety. We don't know what's going to happen exactly with Marte Mapu, as talented as he is. The team lacks that true center fielder who can kind of maximize the talent of everybody else. So I'm curious, where do you think, based on where the Patriots roster is now, Marcellas maybe fits in best if he does manage to get into that defensive rotation?
Yeah, I think outside corners will have to start, right? He's just too talented, can move outside. He ran a 4.4 at the combine, 10-foot plus, or almost 11-foot broad jump, right? I mean, he's a really impressive athlete, can kind of press coverage, bump and run downfield and stay physical. He's a very physical outside corner with recovery speed, kind of develop further too. And I think he probably needs a full training camp to kind of get acclimated to their system. And Gerard Mayo, if he's anything like Bill Belichick, is going to ban a lot of his DBs to do a lot of things really well right out of the gate too. So I think for Dial, I hope he gets a chance to kind of get settled in there a little bit too. But he no doubt has starter potential. I think early on in his career, NFL scouts will tell you like, hey, this guy could be a top 100 pick and a guy that could start game for us early on in the NFL. And again, whether it's up and down seasons or whatever it may be, fell to day 3 of the draft, but certainly has a talent to develop into a guy that can start for them on Sundays, whether this year or next year.
And there were some places that had him labeled as a safety. And in the Patriots system, if you're a cornerback, you are also a safety. They have their disguise coverages. Right. And at some point, you're going to be in that deep part of the field. So what is it about his game that gives him the versatility, not just to be, that press man corner, that off zone corner, but also somebody who can play on the back end of the defense?
Yeah, I think he adjusts really well, right? He's never flat-footed, and he's able to kind of stay balanced and stay in control. And if he has to pick up a tight end in the seam as a free safety or kind of roll over on a corner route, he can really adjust and never be off balance as an off-ball safety or playing corner to safety kind of transition there as well too. So he's a guy that's really has a good sense of things. And then when he kind of can engage with somebody, a tight end, a running back, or just out in coverage too, he'll get his hands on a guy without drawing interference. He's really refined in both staying physical and knowing how to stay physical in space as well too, which is why I think some teams project him to be a kind of a free safety guy who can kind of play in space and work downfield and not be lost if he's out on island downfield. So I think you can do both. I think for the Patriots scheme, him being an outside guy would be great for them.
Look forward to seeing what he does on the field. Also, the energy, man. When he got drafted, he was so excited. That got me kind of fired up. The whole family and everything was juiced up. That was really cool. Excited to see him. Now, Deshaun Fenwick. It's a bit of an older prospect, but he also doesn't have a ton of tread on the tires. Like you mentioned, he was part of a rotation, which is huge for running backs, obviously. Position where you're going to take a beating, but he's coming into a spot where you got Ramondre as RB1. Antonio Gibson figures to have a big role. Then it's that third kind of change of pace back role. And you mentioned he's got a well-rounded skill set. So let Patriots fans know a little bit more in depth what they're getting in Fenwick, who, from everything I've seen, really seems like he's going to be a good fit in their zone scheme.
Yeah, I think for them, especially for him, his role to making the roster is going to be as a third down pass blocker, pass catcher, and a guy who can be efficient as a runner. And he is very detail-oriented, right? Any sort of drop or miss route is going to really bother him. They had this Ryan Bolt at Oregon State, too. He really wants to be really perfect at what he's asked to do. And he'll do those nitty-gritty things early on and be excited about it, right? He's not going to be a guy who's expecting 20 carries ever in his career. He just wants to be an NFL player, and he knows what it takes to do that. I think as a route runner, I saw it in college and then at the Shrine Bowl as well, too. Like, he is very refined, understands how to set up linebackers and wants to get better there. And I think he's probably a 2X better third down running back pass blocker than he was at the Shrine Bowl that is right now. Like, this guy's going to work consistently to make sure he's at his best all season long, too. As a pass blocker, certainly built the part and is really physical in that sense too. But he could be a lead blocker if they want to do, some QB power stuff. Like, he could be that kind of guy from as well too. And I think that there's no one else in this Patriots roster that screams to me as a guy who wants to do those kind of things. And I would not be surprised at all by the end of camp if he's as trusted as pass blocker as Ramondre is, as much of a threat as a bigger bodied pass catcher in space as well, too, that this team really has to offer.
If he can do it, Alex Van Pelt is going to ask him to do it in any role that comes in. Another guy who kind of fits in that mold. It seems like one character, as we mentioned, but also versatility were very big for the Patriots. Another guy who I think they got excellent value in, Jem Bell, the tight end out of Florida State. Now, he's a guy where I feel like he keeps getting compared to Kyle Juszczyk. I don't love that. I feel like everybody on the 49ers, all those skill position players are just the comparison for certain roles where it's like, you got to understand, these guys are one of one. It's not really fair to compare. But based on what you know, what do you think Jem Bell's role is going to be in this Alex Van Pelt type of system? And what do you think he brings to New England's offense?
Yeah, I mean, with really no insight here, I wonder if it was just like, this guy's still here in the 7th round. Like, I don't know what role's going to be. This guy's too talented. And I don't know if Jem Bell is going to be working in that sort of a fullback, H-back role like Kyle Juszczyk, if he'll be a kind of an unattached tight end a little bit and play in space too. But I think the Patriots might have just said, you know what, even this guy has to be on P squad for a year. It's too good to pass. This guy being available right now too. He's really talented. He's got great ball skills for a guy at his size. He can really work downfield. I think he's really dangerous in kind of the short area stuff, going against linebackers and safeties. And he can separate, but also finish in contested catch situations too. So I think a really impressive athlete. I think a lot of teams probably struggle with, where's he going to play for us, right? Should we even call him a tight end? Because he really can't do some of the inline stuff you want to do. But I think he's really a matchup type of player too, that again, he may be a guy that's competing for a roster spot, but even if it's a red shirt for the first 6-8 games or even the whole season, like, it was a great value in the 7th round. I'm totally with you. And I think he's a guy that if it works and he fits their offense great, he could be a 15, 20 catch a year guy for them. And if not, 7th round pick, certainly worth a gamble.
I like you mentioned the downfield stuff too, because he was mostly an underneath threat there, but you saw it every once in a while. It's like, okay, he can track, he can make some adjustments. Sure. If he is a fullback, it's better than you're going to get for most guys at that position. Eric, this has been a blast, man. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Please let the people know where they can find you and what exciting Shrine Bowl news we need to know before you head out.
Yeah, no, I mean, at Shrine Bowl, at the Twitter account, we've got some pretty exciting rollouts we'll have the next few weeks and months too. But right now, we'll be following our guys in training, in rookie minicamp, in training camp, and rooting for our guys. 57 draft picks this year, but we've got 300 guys over the last 3 years at least that are in the NFL from the Shrine Bowl. So I'll be rooting for all 300 of those guys equally. They're all my favorite guys from the last 3 years, and I'll hope all those guys do really well.
Awesome. Congratulations again. Keep killing it. And thank you all, as always, for watching. Now take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And we will see you next time. Peace, y'all.